Dear viewers, welcome to a very special episode of Nasscom Insights Tech Lead Her, where we feature impactful women leaders from the Indian tech industry. In today's episode, I have with me Sirisha Voruganti, CEO and MD of Lloyds Technology Center in India. Welcome, Sirisha, and thank you for taking time to speak to us today.
Wonderful being here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Sirisha has a very unique and inspiring journey. She transitioned from being part of India's missiles program under the leadership of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam to become India's leading fintech and technology leader. Notable among many of her firsts in her career is that she was the first woman MD to lead technology outside the USA for JP Morgan. Today, we will talk to her about her journey, her views on the role of women in the tech industry, and much more. So I'll start with, basically what motivated you, Sirisha, to transition from working on defense projects to leading global technology organizations, and how easy or difficult was this transition for you? If you can just share your thoughts on that.
I mean, like many of you would agree, right? No job is easy. No job is ever easy if done well. It's a lot of effort. It requires a lot of continuous upskilling of your own self and constantly, maneuvering through through technology areas. So it's never easy. But I think if you look at the thread of my personal journey, it's always been technology. It's always been, wanting to be an engineer and wanting to probably do that as well as I could, right? So whether it was with the erstwhile defense organizations that I was part of, or what I've done in these organizations, I've always held that thread very, very close to me. It's really about trying to solve for engineering problems and trying to solve for and trying to upskill myself as technology evolves. So it's really been that. To me, it
Mm,
never appeared like a huge move into some other sector or whatever it is, right? So back then I was working on, one was the initial the mission computing and navigation systems for Prithvi, or the control and guidance software for NAG, and then went on to work on very similar things for the LCA, which is now called Tejas. And then, here also, it was really about when I moved to the private sector, the first assignment I really had was how do we, co-design using hardware and software, and how do we kind of really create an optimal version of a chip. So that was superlatively exciting back then. And then, went on to work on a first revision of, or a first version of a mobile phone platform, which was like those
mm,
big back then. And
mm,
and and then slowly, evolved into doing a couple of other things. But as I said, at the underlying theme of all this was really solving for technology and solving for those problems. And those still excite me. I have this
mm.
childlike enthusiasm even today when I look at, something new that people get to me, whether it is around digital payments or whether it is around, biometrics and whatever else that is being done today. So yeah, I think it's just that, Nirmala, and that's what it's been all through.
That's so inspiring, and actually, I can feel it like so much of changes are happening right now. The disruption that is happening, I think you must be having a gala time trying to figure out what to do, right? So,
Oh,
just
absolutely.
coming into your current role as MD of Lloyd's Technology Center in India, can you just take us through? I know that you were the first when the center was set up. You were the first leader there. What were some of the challenges that you faced while establishing the center in India? How did you address them? What kind of transition, from digital transformation that the company has evolved, and what is it that you see the journey for that sector, for your company in the next few years? Just looking at your organization perspective on that.
So a couple of things, and I think organizations like Nasscom have helped a lot of us as we were going through this journey, right? A lot of reports that were published in terms of tech talent across the country. How does that look like? How have GCCs evolved in India? What are the areas of technologies that people are investing in this part of the world? Again, what are the big hubs in the country, and so on and so forth. So for us, and that really helped choosing a location in terms of saying, okay, should that be Hyderabad or Bangalore, or should that be NCR region, or Kolkata and all that. So the choice of talent, and the choice of that location was the first thing. And as I
Mhm.
said, you guys helped tremendously with all the reports and publications that that you guys have in each of the areas. So that was the first one. The second was really about creating that brand presence, right? And
Hmm.
saying, and I think that for most of these organizations, it's really about talent coming in because of either a certain leader coming and joining the firm, or a certain area of technology that the company is focusing in, or the fact that there is a huge amount of learning in a lot of disciplines for people. So I think all three worked for us, right? As we were trying
Mhm.
to set up this center, I think it really excited people about what we wanted to solve for here. And the best part of India and Indians, I think, is we're always rearing to go and work on something new, a newer problem that we want to solve. And I've
Hmm.
always maintained this, that if there is any one place in across the world where people are always wanting to build out a product and improve on existing products, that's India.
Right.
Probably China too on that list, but definitely here. And so I think we had a lot of like-minded people that came and joined us as we ventured into this. And today I feel really proud because every product that we have in Lloyds, and every line of business in Lloyds, is represented in India, and we have a
Hmm.
lot of amazing skill base that we've actually been able to create, and we've been delivering on many of these products through the year. So I think all of that has gone extremely positive as far as Lloyds is concerned. So yeah, I think that's pretty much been what it was. It's really about
Hmm.
areas of technology that we want to work in, problems that we want to solve. Where else can you actually get to work on, say, an entire new core banking platform? I mean, that would
Hmm.
really mean somebody that works here can actually go create a bank, right? So
Right.
there's just amazing problems that you solve, and amazing areas to learn for individuals, right? So I think that's what we offered, and that's what people were also excited about as they came and joined us.
Great. I'll talk to you a little about the talent pool a little later, but just to understand your thoughts on, I know we talked about a lot of disruption and solutions that are coming out of India. Some of the insights into your approach to drive innovation in fintech, because fintech is an area where there is a lot of innovation happening currently out of India also. So, how are you ensuring that the innovation pace in your organization continues? Can you share some of the examples about how you're applying the new technologies that you have, AI, and how is that being built into your business and solutions?
Yeah, again, if we don't adopt to some of these new technologies, we will not exist, because there is so much of competition that you have. May not be to just, to manage the world, but if you
Hmm.
look at a lot of the customer facing applications, right, most of them,
Hmm.
the challenges that we really have are the
Hmm.
fintechs. And so it's
Yeah.
important for us to ensure we are at par or doing better on some of these areas, or trying to see how we can integrate some of the solutions that have been built into what
Hmm.
we have as our technology landscape, and so on. So we're doing all of that, right?
Hmm.
And again, the choice of Hyderabad also was the fact that it's not just a very vibrant industry, IT industry that we've created here, but there's
Hmm.
also a huge amount of of fintech investments that have happened, whether it is the T Hub. I think Nasscom itself, you've got a 10,000 startups into various
Yeah.
of the areas. And all the areas that you talked about, Nirmala, are
Hmm.
definitely important to us. One, I mean, if I look at public cloud, for instance, which is a huge area of investment for most of the banks today, because
Mm-hmm.
you are definitely trying to see how you can reduce costs of on-prem storage. And so, there is a move to public cloud, which is happening. And we are on the same journey as well, right? The second is areas like AI, ML. We're talking about agentic AI today. All of these are super interesting. I mean, if trying to bring in improvements in our overall productivity and reduce the overall cost ultimately, and push that benefit to customers.
Mm-hmm.
There have also been a lot of conversations in terms of, is AI or agentic AI going to reduce jobs in the country? That's, of course, another conversation for another time. But I think in terms of productivity improvements, in terms of optimization of software, in terms of a whole lot of those aspects, I think these technologies would really help. And we definitely are on a journey where you're embarking on many of those, right? And for the banking industry as well, there's a lot of predictive analytics that we work on. So much of this is really important. Data is another journey that we are on,
Yeah.
and like that these are all ever evolving journeys. It's never like you've done and you've solved for a problem, because there are just so many of these that are constantly going on. We'll have to manage our data better. We'll have to see how we reduce the footprint of that data. We actually have to ensure how we're able to provide better insights to customers, because, as I said, the demographic of customers is so varied, right? I mean, the Gen Z is probably looking at something
Yeah.
else. The Gen X is looking at something else, and the baby boomers want something else. But all of it has to do with with data and how we manage data. So that, of course, is another area that we constantly are investing in. And newer technologies, like whether it is blockchain or whether it is quantum computing, all of those two are very important. In fact, we have use cases that we're running on some of these, right? Whether it is for our insurance businesses, for our payments businesses, using blockchain technologies, or if we're looking at quantum computing for, say, fraud, right, and fraud and risk management. So I think, as I said, every new technology, I think we have a problem that we can solve for better, and so we're constantly looking at that. The other thing that has now come in, and you must have heard about this, is sustainability in software build, right? So that's something that we do look at also constantly in terms of carbon emissions and the carbon footprint that we're actually leaving, and also looking at areas where you're not doing that at the end of the software development cycle, that you're looking at, are you able to shift that left, where can you look at carbon footprint even at the time of architecture and design itself? So all of these are areas that we're looking at and investing, and I think that's extremely important, for organizations like ours to be abreast and and look at all of these aspects. So we've made a lot of investments into universities as well around these areas that I just called out, because again, that's another thing that I very, very strongly believe in. It's just not industry that can trailblaze its way through. It has to be academia, industry coming together and really solving for some of these complex problems, right?
Right.
And in India, I think some of the things we've done really well is digital ID and things like that. So again, those are problems for us to solve for in other geographies as well. So again, constantly looking at everything that's happening across the globe to see what we can do, what we can adopt, and
Right.
again, how we can provide for better experiences.
No, right. That I can understand how for, right now technology is in such a stage that every part of it, there is some other or the other disruption that's happening, and you have to lead accordingly. But what about the talent pool? You touched upon it, saying that the key thing that India holds is that we have a whole bunch of talent which is not available anywhere else. But the question is, are they really equipped to actually cater to these kind of changes that are happening in such a pace? The pace is so fast. So how are you actually nurturing the talent pool? You talked about the partnerships that you have with academia to build the talent pool that is required. But is there anything else that you're doing to nurture the
Actually,
talent?
engaging with
Mm.
them before. So we've had a lot
Yeah.
of conversations again between some of the,
Mm.
industry leaders as well as, folks from Nasscom on how do you
Mm-hmm.
build out curriculum? What's the sort of curriculum
Yeah.
that we really want in the
Mm.
universities? How do we make, engineers more industry ready as they come out
Ready.
with their degrees so that they become more
Yeah.
employable for us, right?
Right. Right.
And that could be, by us helping fine tune curriculum or us providing labs etc in some of these schools where we want certain problems of our own to be solved by the industry and and as people graduate we find them a lot more industry ready because otherwise we bring them in another couple of years they get
Mm.
trained and we've
Trained.
actually already lost out market windows. So everything is about shifting left now, and I think that's something that we are constantly looking at, right? And as I said, I think we'll have to do more and more of that. We run these
Mm.
sort of hackathons
Correct.
in the schools as well to constantly see the sort of solutions or the sort of ideas folks have, right? And try to
Right.
see how we can adopt them in the into areas and sectors that we are all looking at. So all of these, I think, are really helping create a pool of talent. And that's not just in the best schools in the country. We're trying to
Mm.
see how this can go to pretty much every school and college in every geography, every part of the country that we have, so that these, the industry-ready engineers are really available. Apart from that, of course, there are these apprentice programs, etc., that
Yeah.
we run too, right? Where
Okay.
we are training,
Mm-hmm.
engineers as they come into the job, and 6 months to a year, they are with us. And if we
Mm.
find them, really suitable, we ensure that we actually take them into the workforce. And a lot of these measures have we also run, to ensure we have a diverse talent pool. We also run things like she codes and and hackathons, which are just woman only as well, right? So
Yes.
that we are at least at an intake level, we have a 50% of diverse population that's coming into the industry. And then, once your base is really strong and good, you're able to build beyond that so that we have a very healthy mix as far as the workforce is concerned. So all of these are investments that we're constantly making.
So you covered my next question, which was around. I know that you're very, very passionate about the DEI aspect of the industry and how, but I know that currently we from Nasscom we say that we are just around 36% as the women workforce. We are doing a lot of initiatives are being conducted to bring more women into the industry, but also we have seen at the senior level the number of women folks is very less, and it's I think not increasing rapidly, which should be the case. So what are your suggestions and how do you look at it? Because I know once you reach a level where you're at your mid level, it becomes difficult for a woman to transition to a senior position. So what is your advice, or what do you think should be done? Because you have actually proven that it is possible to do it. So what are the some kind of suggestions that you can give?
Okay, so no matter what I suggest, I think the one thing that, all the girls should really have is
Mm,
is a desire to reach the top, right? That fire in the
mm,
belly, I think, is absolutely important, no matter what that job is, to actually, be part of it and really do that well. And, if that's something you aspire for, then I would imagine everything else aligns to ensure
mm,
that happens for you. As far as what we are doing from an industry standpoint, right? The 50% intake, I think, is something that we definitely ensure that it's the same
okay.
amount of men and women that we have coming into the industry. What we
Mm-hmm.
see is in the 5 years and beyond, you see a lot of dropouts in women, right? Because
Mm,
once they get married and once they are into their family way, they do take a break. And when they come back into the industry, that's when they find it a little hard to kind of come back and join that workforce. And that's where I think you see the men, leading the way in terms of
mm,
numbers workforce. And when it comes right to the top, you probably have 10% or 10 to 12% that are left to really
Mm,
be running and manning organizations. And that's the problem that we have. So
mm,
what we try to do in terms of additional support that we can provide to girls, we've actually run something called a returnship program, right? So
mm,
once people have taken a break for whatever reasons in their careers, and it is anywhere beyond a year, when technology moves at the pace at which it is, you tend to get outdated, even if you're not in a job for 12 months. So we try and upskill them, run certain trainings for these, especially for girls that have the aptitude and that really
mhm,
want to do and excel. We get them in, train them, put them through a test, and then put them in the workforce. The one benefit that we've seen is the loyalty that we get from these girls is extremely high. They don't leave the organization for a long time, and that's really good for the workforce. So, but I think people should have that aptitude, as I said, to kind of really want to excel and do their jobs really well. The second, and many studies have shown this, is not many women, I think, raise their hand when they feel they're not fully ready for the job. But a
mm,
man would, on if he's 60% ready for a job, would raise his hand, perhaps. But a woman, even if she's 90% ready, would have her
mm,
own doubts about can she manage, and can she manage her own personal life, right? So I think that is something that we'll probably have to be mentors and keep coaching. So each one of us, I think, needs to be either that role model or that mentor for a lot of people that that are looking at and aspiring for these jobs, saying
mhm,
we were no different when we raised our hand for a certain job. Of course, it's going to be difficult. There is no easy path to success, right? But you
mm,
will have to work your way through in terms of work really, really hard. And I keep telling people this: you don't always have to aspire for being a 10 on 10 on everything that you do.
mm,
Maybe there are days when you don't attend a parent teacher meeting for your child, and or something else at home, where you prioritize your work over something for the family. I think it's okay if that's what you want to get to, and there's an ambition that you have. So I think all of these are things that are individual choices, and people have to make those based on their own interest in what they want to pursue. But as
mm,
far from an organizational standpoint, in terms of do we have all the guardrails to support entry level talent, mid level talent, to actually look at providing the necessary coaching, mentoring, and networks like Women in Technology, etc., that we have, where they get an opportunity to actually network with a lot of other women in the organization. I think all of those are avenues that we as an organization provide, right? And I know many organizations aspire to provide that. We also have, the other smaller things like daycare facilities, which are very close to your
mm,
office, that you don't have to worry about your child when you're at work and things like that. So all of
mm,
those are things that, all the guardrails are things that we as an organization would provide. But it's just that, that one bit of push that you require to tell you that you're okay and you're capable of doing it. That is something that we ourselves have to sometimes make those
yeah,
calls. And of course, as I said, the mentoring program is so strong that you should talk to your mentors and seek some help as you're kind of
right,
treading that path to taking on larger organizational responsibilities. And from jobs, even senior level job standpoint,
mm,
right? We always
mhm,
ensure that there is a slate, and the
yeah,
slate, basically slate of diverse candidates, and the slate has to have more than a single woman on that,
okay,
on the slate, because if it is just one individual, then the chance of dropping off is really, really high as you go through the process. So we try and ensure there is a substantial slate for some of these senior roles, as we're trying to recruit. And for healthy organizations, I think you need a right mix of both the genders, so that
yeah,
able to create a super healthy organization which is compassionate and which really understands people well, right? And even on design teams and things like that, right? I think it's very important to have diverse teams because
Yeah.
every, and personally being in the financial sector, I think every payment decision there is a woman that actually helps make those payment decisions. So
Exactly.
if you are
Yeah.
designing products and if you're building out products, I think it's extremely important to have that representation on your design teams, on your architecture teams, and on your delivery teams as well. So I think it's really about the
Exactly.
guardrails that organizations can provide, and I think we definitely are providing those. Uh, but I think it's really for the girls to understand where they want to get
Hmm.
to and ensure that they, are aspiring for those top jobs that are available.
Agree, agree. I even right now, if you see in the AI disruptions that are happening, to have an equal play, it's very important to have the gender perspective also in place.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's going to be skewed. And support system, like you mentioned rightly, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Just yeah, and I'm so glad that you're doing so many things for women to come back to the ecosystem and providing enough support to them. Many organizations do, but it's really heartening to hear about it every time that you talk to somebody. That's really nice. Can you, in terms of just moving to your personal moment, what could be, can you define a moment which shaped your leadership approach? I know I have read about your leadership approach where you have your 5 C's in place and how you try to ensure that people follow that. But can you talk about that? And how do you think that it will one more key thing that I would like to understand is how do you bring people to understand your vision as a leader? What is your vision? How do you convey that to all your employees? How do you do that?
So, one, in terms of the defining moment in my career and who shaped it, the way it is, there was one thing that I really learned. One is about humility. And there were two people that I actually look up to, when you talk about being humble in organizations. One is, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and I talked about that story in the past. But there was a second gentleman called Dr. Kota Harnarayana. The two of them happened to be great buddies. But Dr. Kota was actually responsible for the program director for the light combat aircraft. And I
Mm,
have never seen a person more humble than he was in terms of just being spending time with junior engineers or really working through problem solving or really trying to understand issues that people have as they're going through through their designs or whatever it was, right? And so I was always inspired by by them, and I thought how can senior leaders, as senior as they were, be so approachable, be so you could just talk to them if you had an issue, you could openly cite the issue, and they would do something about solving that. So I thought, yeah, and seeing those people, I think, were my first lessons, and in my formative years, that's what I thought. I thought it was if you became somebody of substance, this is how you really need to be because that's when people look up to you, right? They should never
mm,
be fear psychosis in the
yeah.
organization about
True.
you as an individual. Instead, it's very nice when people come up to you and and share what they are going through. And I think organizations, and I've said this before as well, organizations are not about a single individual. They're always
Mm,
about teams, and they're always about uh, you know uh, great progress that you do together, and it's never an individual thing, right? So I think it's really important to create that, and that happens when you have a lot of transparency, a lot of openness, and a lot of honesty that is being backed, that you have behind all of this. It's only then that people look up to you, I think, as a leader. Of course, your ability to solve problems, your ability to understand technology, all of that, yes. But I think think there are a number of other parameters as an individual that you need to train yourself and teach yourself if you want to lead people and you want to lead large organizations. So those have been the early lessons, that I have learned. And any organization that I've been part of, I think, to me, it's very, very fundamental that the organization is transparent and honest.
Great, and I think empathetic leader is what, in nowadays the generation now would actually look out for more than anything else. That's really great. And lastly, coming to my last question, how do you see Lloyds growing in India? What are some of the long-term goals for your company, and how do you plan? What is the vision for your company in the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, Lloyds is aspiring to be the largest fintech in the UK. And if you
Yeah.
have to be the largest fintech in any part of the world, I think it's really about rolling out solutions really quick to the market, right? And that would mean, improvement of a lot of things in terms of whether it is, we talked about all those areas in the beginning, whether it is data, whether it is cloud, whether it is, AI, predictive analytics, quantum, and so on. You really need to look at all of those. And I think what better place can you have to work on some of those areas than India? The number of engineers that we produce is substantial, and we've been talking about a lot of trained manpower that would come into the workforce. And this is way higher than any other country across the world. So I think we win hands down on that aspect. My only goal and desire for any company that is in India has been to how do we create product out of this country, and considering finance and payments, and that's a market that we understand really well in India. I think definitely ahead of the rest of the world. How do we take a lot of our own learnings into some of the Western countries and see their adoption, whether it is digital identity, what we've done with Aadhaar, what we've done with faster payments in this country. I think no other country has done anything of that magnitude, right? So I think all of those are areas and areas of learning, for the bank at this point in time. And we will, have this constant endeavor to do more and more of that. But the one desire behind all of this and all through my 30 plus years in the industry, Nirmala, has been really to develop product from India. And I think because, faster, quicker, cheaper, and better. And I strongly, strongly believe, we have the best engineers to do that. And it's the same that's going to be for Lloyds. That's what we're going to do. And that's how you're going to move the needle, substantially for the company in terms of creating those products and taking them to market way faster.
So, and we have this thing about product nation, that's something that we keep moving from a services nation to a more long-term goal. That's really great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was really great talking to you. A lot of, I think, key insights that I could gather. I hope it has been useful for the audience. For us is more, that they are able to gauge how you actually moved into this role. What are your things? So I think it's really wonderful talking to you, and looking forward to connecting with you again. Thank
Thanks
you
so
so
much,
much.
Nirmala. It was just wonderful
Yeah.
being on this show of yours, and look forward to getting feedback on the same, of course. Thank you.
Sure, of course. Thank you so much. So, with this, we come to the end of today's episode. Do subscribe to our channel and get notified for such inspiring talks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sirisha. Thanks a ton.